Welcome to a chilling exploration of the human psyche. Today, we delve into a tragic case that highlights a condition known as Adele syndrome. This term encapsulates the morbid obsession one individual can develop for another, leading to devastating consequences. Named after the youngest daughter of the renowned French writer Victor Hugo, Adele was not only strikingly beautiful, but also an exceptionally talented pianist. Sadly, her unrequited love spiraled into an obsession that profoundly impacted her mental health. This relentless fixation tainted both her life and that of her lover. Adele pursued him with such fervor that she pretended to be his wife, ultimately sabotaging his career and personal life. Her tragic tale concluded with 43 of her 84 years spent in a psychiatric institution. Such obsessions can lead to a complete loss of emotional control, a phenomenon not as rare as one might think. While many individuals can find help through experienced psychologists, some cases demand hospitalization and intensive therapy. In the darkest scenarios, this fixation can drive a person to engage in unpredictable and cruel behavior. One such case that sent shockwaves across Europe was that of Emma Ljungstig in 2008. It stands as one of the most brutal incidents in the annals of Swedish forensic science. The perpetrator's actions raised questions of insanity, yet the dearth of concrete evidence nearly allowed the case to be closed. But in a dramatic turn, Nicholas, Emma's ex-husband, revealed his true colors in the courtroom. Emma Ljungstig, born on February 16, 1985 in Stockholm, spent her formative years in the city, growing up alongside her older sister, Katharina. As the investigation unfolded, the case teetered on the brink of closure due to a lack of hard evidence. Yet, in a dramatic courtroom revelation, Nicholas, Emma's ex-husband, exposed his true nature. Emma Ljungstig, born on February 16, 1985 in Stockholm, had a story that ran deeper than mere appearances. Emma's childhood was rooted in the vibrant streets of Stockholm, where she spent nearly all her formative years. As the younger of two sisters, she grew up alongside her elder sibling, Katharina, in a modest family atmosphere. At just 19, she found herself marrying Nicholas, a young man she had dated throughout high school. Though their ages were close, Emma's life was about to change dramatically. By the time they wed, she was already expecting their first child. At the tender age of 20, Emma embraced motherhood for the first time with the birth of her son Max. Just a year and a half later, she welcomed a daughter, Saga. But the joy of their growing family was overshadowed by the couple's immaturity and inability to handle the responsibilities of parenthood. Arguments over trivial matters became common, and their communication deteriorated rapidly. Soon after Saga's birth, the couple made the heart-wrenching decision to separate. This split ignited a painful custody battle that would see them clash repeatedly. Nicholas was determined to not only provide financial support for their children, but also to remain an active figure in their lives. While Emma was open to co-parenting, her life took a new direction when she entered a romantic relationship with another man. Relocating to the small town of Arboga, about 150 kilometers from Stockholm, she took Max and Saga along, a decision that sparked fury in her ex-husband. Nicholas was adamant about wanting to see his children daily, leading to frequent court appearances as they fought over custody. In a moment of anger, he even threatened Emma, prompting her to report the incident to the police. Their attempts at peaceful resolution fell flat. As tensions escalated, both parents sought sole custody, each convinced that they could provide a better life for Max and Saga. It was during this turbulent time that Emma met Torny Hellberg online. Their connection was immediate, igniting a romance that would change everything. Torny, unfazed by Emma's past and her two children, had long dreamt of having a family. He was ready to embrace Max and Saga as his own. The couple quickly grew closer, and soon after they married, solidifying their commitment to one another. Initially, they resided in a small house inherited by Torny. However, as their family dynamic evolved, they decided to move into a larger home, one that would provide space for each child to have their own room. Torgny's stable job allowed them to create a comfortable life. Emma dedicated herself to raising the children and nurturing their home, all while dreaming of returning to her career as a designer. The couple eagerly planned a wedding for the summer of 2008, envisioning a future filled with hope and new beginnings. Emma Ljungstig immersed herself in the joys of motherhood, nurturing her young children while crafting a warm home. Yet beneath the surface of domestic life lingered the aspirations of a trained designer. She envisioned a future where her creative talents would flourish. As plans blossomed for a summer wedding in 2008, hope intertwined with dreams of a bright tomorrow. However, fate had other plans. On March 17, 2008, an ordinary Monday, Torny Helberg left for work early in the morning. At home, Emma Youngstig was left to care for their 3-year-old son, Max, and 1.5-year-old daughter, Saga. That fateful evening, Emma Youngstig was busy preparing dinner, eagerly anticipating the return of her fiancé, Torny Helberg. As she worked, she engaged in a lively conversation online with her sister, Katharina, discussing a gift for their parents' upcoming wedding anniversary. At around 6:30 p.m., a call from Torny broke the rhythm of her evening. He warned her of his tardiness and suggested that she could start dinner without him. After their brief exchange, Emma resumed her household tasks, unaware of the dark turn her evening would soon take. She fed her children and returned to her computer, continuing her conversation with Katharina. However, at 7:07 p.m., their communication was suddenly cut off, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. Katharina found the abrupt halt in their conversation peculiar. She noticed that Emma had been typing a message but never sent it. Concerned, she called her sister 5 minutes later, but the call went unanswered. Anxious about Emma's silence, Katharina dialed Torny's number, seeking answers. Torny was on his way home from work, nearing the house. He reassured Katharina that everything was likely fine, attributing Emma's distraction to the children. Yet, when Torny arrived home, he was taken aback to find the front door unlocked. As he stepped inside, the chaos of the living room met his eyes, initially dismissed as the children's play. But horror swiftly overtook him as he spotted brown stains on the floor. Blood. Panic surged through him as he called out for Emma and the children, but a chilling silence answered back. Witnessing the scene, one man initially mistook a strange object for a doll, given its unnatural position on the ground. As he approached, horror gripped him. It was Saga, lying lifeless in a pool of her own blood. Emma's head and face were disfigured beyond recognition, a grotesque sight transformed into a bloody mess. Nearby, her brother Max lay in a similarly horrific state, his skull fractured. Their mother was sprawled on the floor, a chilling testament to the violence that had erupted in their home. Covered in blood and contorted in an unnatural position, Emma's face was a shattered image of despair. Initially, it seemed as if none of them were alive. In a state of shock, Torny fumbled for his cell phone, his hands trembling as he dialed the emergency number. He relayed the horror he had stumbled upon. Just as he spoke, Emma stirred, letting out a long, agonizing groan. Police officers and paramedics arrived swiftly, their presence a flicker of hope as they detected a faint pulse in all 3 victims. As they launched into resuscitation efforts, the scene was nothing short of a nightmare. The question lingered. What kind of monster could commit such an atrocity against a young mother and her children? Yet in that moment, saving their lives took precedence above all else. Immediate efforts were focused on transporting the victims to the nearest hospital. As the investigation unfolded, the arriving paramedics couldn't shake their doubts, their instincts warning them of the severity of the situation. Concerns loomed over the fate of the victims as they were rushed to the hospital. Yet, against the odds, Emma, Max, and Saga were alive upon their arrival. Medical examinations revealed the grim reality. Open head injuries, severe brain damage, and extensive blood loss painted a dire picture of their condition. Doctors offered no guarantees. All they could do was their utmost. Max and Saga were in critical condition, teetering on the brink of life. Even if they survived, the doctors grimly noted, the likelihood of them ever breathing unaided again was slim. The condition of their mother was assessed as extremely serious yet stable. Emma was placed into a medically induced coma, her body connected to life support machines, a desperate hope that her resilient spirit could endure. While the doctors fought valiantly for the victims' lives, forensic experts combed through the chaotic scene, intent on uncovering clues and piecing together the narrative of the crime. Inside the house, chaos reigned supreme. Scattered belongings, blood splattered across the floor, and gruesome stains marking the walls. In the chaotic aftermath, the medics left behind a scene of disarray, having shifted items to access the victims. The floor bore the marks of their frantic efforts, trampled and muddied. Among the chaos, investigators would need to discern which footprints belonged to the victims and whether the perpetrator had left behind any traces. Remarkably, the assailant had unleashed a horrific attack, slaughtering the 3 victims in a chillingly brief span of just 13 minutes. The last message Emma sent to her sister was time-stamped at 7:07 p.m. A mere 13 minutes later, a terrified Torney reached out to the police, setting the stage for a harrowing investigation. The sheer brutality of the assault suggested a personal vendetta, a deep-seated animosity towards the victims. The weapon of choice? A blunt, heavy object, presumably a hammer, left its mark on the tragic scene. The enigmatic criminal unleashed a brutal assault on his victims, wielding a bludgeon with ferocity. Strangely, no weapon was found at the scene. It became evident the perpetrator took the weapon with him. From the outset, Torgny Hellberg emerged as the primary suspect. He was not married to Emma Youngstig, nor was he the father of her children. Speculation arose that a domestic quarrel between the couple may have spiraled into a bloodbath. The grief-stricken Hellberg was quickly brought in for questioning. Yet, he possessed an ironclad alibi. He had been working late, a fact confirmed by his boss and colleagues. At the precise moment of the horrific massacre, security footage captured him walking down the street. Despite his solid alibi, Detective Torney opted to take a detailed statement from him. Perhaps Hellberg had seen or heard something vital that could aid the investigation. However, Hellberg could recall no specifics. His day had been uneventful until he stumbled upon the chaos, the lifeless bodies on the floor. One detail did strike him. The front door stood unlocked, a possible sign that Emma had unwittingly let the intruder inside. After the questioning, Hellberg was released. By that time, he had already contacted Emma's family. Her parents, in a panic, rushed from Stockholm to Aruba. They drove directly to the hospital, but on their way, the radio delivered devastating news. Max and Saga had succumbed to their injuries, never to regain consciousness. In the wake of this tragedy, a new suspect emerged. Nicholas, Emma's ex-husband and the father of the children. Their divorce had occurred over a year ago. Initially, the split had been amicable, but tensions escalated. Bitter custody battles ensued, with Nicholas even threatening Emma, a fact she had reported to the police. The pieces began to align. After their separation, Emma relocated with the children to a different city, accompanied by her new partner. Frustrated by his failed custody attempts, Nicholas appeared to have taken a desperate and violent turn. In a fit of rage, he had attacked the children. Nicholas was tracked down swiftly and taken into custody, but he seemed devastated by the news of Max and Saga's deaths. Overcome with grief, he sobbed, pleading for confirmation that there had been some mistake. When charged with the horrific crime, he was initially stunned, then erupted in anguish, insisting he would never harm his beloved children. When interrogators pressed for his whereabouts during the attack, Nicholas claimed he had been in another city on business that day. The assertion sounded odd, yet soon enough his alibi was verified. He was indeed 120 miles away from the scene of the crime. As chaos reigned in the aftermath of a brutal massacre, forensic investigators meticulously combed through the scene. Their focus was to uncover any clues while simultaneously grappling with the chilling reality that the sole survivor, Emma Youngstig, remained in grave danger. The perpetrator, having executed his horrific act with calculated precision, had worn gloves, leaving no fingerprints behind. The investigation grew increasingly complicated with the presence of numerous medical personnel who had entered the home to render assistance. Each footprint left in the chaos now posed a challenge. Determining which traces belonged to the doctors and which belonged to the assailant was imperative for the investigation's success. Law enforcement officials were acutely aware of the threat posed by the criminal, especially with the knowledge that Emma had survived the attack. Fearing he might attempt to finish what he had started, they recognized the urgency of protecting their crucial witness. A 24-hour guard was swiftly established outside her hospital room, while neighbors were questioned in hopes of uncovering any potential leads. Among the neighbors interviewed, one woman recounted a chilling sight. Around 5:00 p.m. on the day of the attack, she had noticed a figure dressed in black loitering near Emma and Torney's home. The stranger's face remained hidden beneath a hood, but something about the presence struck her as unsettling. The woman speculated that the figure could have been a girl, as the stature appeared short and fragile. Strikingly, this same figure was later captured on a street surveillance camera just a short walk from the crime scene, deepening the mystery. Law enforcement concurred with her assessment, perceiving the individual in the footage as a frail-looking girl. The question lingered in the air. Who was she? And what motive could she possibly have to inflict harm on Emma and her children? In a bid to provide further insights, investigators presented the recording to Torny Hellberg. They sought his opinion about the stranger's identity, hoping he might have suspicions. As he scrutinized the footage, a profound change washed over him. His complexion paled as he tentatively suggested that it could be his ex-girlfriend. Torgny's ex-girlfriend, Christina Schur, a 31-year-old woman, came into focus. Although he hesitated to confirm it, the resemblance stirred something ominous within him. Born in Hanover, Germany, Christina's troubled childhood had left deep scars. Her father abandoned the family, leaving her to navigate life without his presence, which had profoundly impacted her mental state and behavior. Christina Schur, a 31-year-old woman, had a turbulent past that shaped her complex character. Born in Hanover, Germany in 1977, her childhood was marred by abandonment when her father left the family, severing ties with his daughter. This traumatic experience deeply affected Christina's mental state and behavior, leaving scars that would haunt her in the years to come. Christina had grown into a determined and willful woman, marked by a complex personality. As a teenager, she ventured to the United States on an exchange program, spending several formative years in New York City. With a strong educational background in history and archaeology, Christina traveled extensively across Europe, engaging in numerous excavations and expeditions. In the summer of 2006, she found herself in Greece, specifically on the island of Crete. There, she secured a position as a tour guide at a popular hotel. It was during this summer that she crossed paths with Torny, then 26, who was on vacation. Their mutual attraction was immediate. Torny found Christina's intelligence and charm irresistible, and thus an affair began. From the very first days of their acquaintance, Christine Schur was just 29 years old. Yet, the minor age difference did not deter their relationship. Their connection blossomed during a week-long vacation at the hotel. Following his departure, they maintained their connection through phone calls and online correspondence. A few months later, Christine made her way to Torny Hellberg in Sweden, boldly requesting to stay at his home. Even at that early stage, Torny found her behavior to be intrusive and tactless. When Christine suggested a weekend getaway to the mountains, he declined, hoping sincerely that it would be their last encounter. Yet, she persisted in calling. She continued to text him and insisted on meeting again. In January 2007, during a phone call, Torny finally told Christine that their relationship was over and that they should not see each other again. But Christine feigned ignorance. She kept calling, urging him to allow her a visit and even suggesting a vacation together. In the spring of 2007, Christine returned to Sweden and began to stalk her former boyfriend. She attempted to persuade him to rekindle their relationship, despite Torny's honest admission that he was already seeing someone else. Christine then claimed that she had left some belongings at his home during her last visit and needed to collect them. Torgny reluctantly agreed, but once they crossed the threshold, Christine attempted to seduce him. After he firmly rejected her advances, she ominously warned him that he would regret it in 3 months. Christine returned yet again, apologizing for her previous behavior and once more trying to persuade Torny to reconcile. He remained resolute in his rejection. Later that evening, she called him, claiming to have swallowed pills because she could not bear the thought of life without him. Alarmed, Torny called for an ambulance and reached out to Christine's family, warning them about her erratic behavior and suggesting they seek professional help. After receiving the necessary medical attention, her mother took her home and admitted her to a psychiatric hospital. Christine spent more than a month in treatment. However, the intervention yielded little change. She remained fixated on her former lover, constantly devising new reasons to meet and win him back. In October 2007, Christine made the drastic decision to move to Sweden, settling in the suburbs of Stockholm, where she rented an apartment with another woman. She resumed her pursuit of Torny. When she finally managed to see him, Christine dropped a bombshell. She claimed to have given birth to a son by him, but had placed the child with a foster family. Torgny was taken aback by this revelation. What shocked him even more was the timing, as their last intimate encounter had occurred over a year ago. They had met 3 more times since then, but Christine had shown no signs of pregnancy. Each time he pressed her for details, she responded evasively, adding new twists to her story. In January 2008, after countless failed attempts to meet with Torney, in an alarming message to Tony, Christina claimed their son had been diagnosed with a hereditary disease, urging him to travel to Germany with her to see him. She also ominously noted that the child's adoptive father would be in touch. At that time, Christina and Emma were in the process of relocating to a new home. Emma, fully aware of the troubling circumstances, suspected that Tony's ex-girlfriend was merely attempting to lure him to Germany under false pretenses. In a startling turn of events, Tony received a call from a man claiming to be the adoptive father of Christina's child. Following Emma's advice, Tony probed deeper, asking about the child's birth date and the hospital where it took place. The caller's irritation was palpable as he skillfully dodged Tony's questions. Ultimately, the man abruptly ended the call, leading Hellberg to a grim conclusion. No child had ever existed. Hellberg's investigation quickly took a decisive direction. He surmised that Christina had woven an elaborate fabrication, enlisting someone from her circle to support her deception. Following Christina's arrest, detectives set out to gather evidence and swiftly located the residence of the new suspect, piecing together the confusing narrative that had unfolded. Upon arriving at the address, detectives were greeted by Christina's roommate, who revealed that Christina had hastily packed her belongings just the day before, stating her intention to return to Germany. Subsequent checks confirmed the unsettling truth. Christina had indeed left the country. With this development, the Swedish authorities turned to their German counterparts for assistance in apprehending her. On March 20th, an arrest warrant was issued, and when the suspect was eventually captured, she insisted there had been a mistake and that she was innocent of any involvement in the massacre. Transported back to Sweden on March 29th, Christina immediately sought a meeting with Tony, a request that was denied. Throughout the ordeal, she maintained an unnervingly calm demeanor, seemingly unshaken by the gravity of the situation. Despite her composed exterior, Christina repeatedly inquired about the possibility of speaking with her ex. Meanwhile, investigators meticulously searched her rented apartment, seizing her phone and laptop for examination. Every article of clothing was scrutinized, yet no traces of blood were discovered. Investigators identified the brand and distinctive tread pattern of a pair of shoes found at the scene, matching the size worn by the suspect. Christina, however, denied ever owning such a model. Her claim quickly fell apart when her roommate identified the shoes as belonging to Christina. By this point, investigators had narrowed down the bloody shoe prints found at the crime scene, determining which did not belong to medics or family members. The prints were athletic in nature, their tread pattern providing a crucial lead. The detectives established that the sneakers matched the size worn by Christina. Yet she continued to assert that she had never owned that model. This falsehood was quickly contradicted by her roommate, who confirmed the shoe's ownership. In a further twist, the detectives uncovered a disturbing search history that revealed Christina's obsession, adding layers of complexity to the already intricate case against her. Among the recovered evidence were chilling images of Emma and her children. The perpetrator had copied these photos from a rival's social media account, each caption steeped in insults, threats, and ominous undertones found in the search history. The investigators unearthed requests detailing methods for committing murder undetected, along with strategies to conceal evidence and divert suspicion. In addition, they discovered a sinister plan concerning Emma and Torney Hellberg's new home. Notes meticulously chronicled the man's comings and goings, specifying when he left for work and when he returned, alongside other details about the family's daily life. During an interview, survivor Emma revealed that her health had stabilized. Her vital signs gradually improved, and by late March, the medical team made the decision to slowly awaken her from the medically induced coma. Upon regaining consciousness, she found herself unable to speak due to the breathing tube, but her eyes expressed a profound understanding. She recognized the family members surrounding her, yet the circumstances of her hospitalization remained a mystery. Once Emma regained enough strength to communicate, the police were granted access to her, but they opted to withhold the devastating truth about her children. It soon became apparent that Emma had no recollection of the harrowing events of that day, believing instead that she must have been involved in a car accident. She repeatedly inquired about her children, receiving only vague responses initially. Eventually, her family and medical team concluded that concealing the truth was futile. When Emma finally learned of the heartbreaking reality, that her children were no longer alive, she fell into a state of hysteria. The doctors had no choice but to sedate her, leading her back into a restless sleep. Each time she awakened, the horrific conversation seemed to slip from her memory, and she would once again ask about her children. This cycle persisted for weeks, during which time Emma was informed repeatedly of her son and daughter's tragic fates. Yet it appeared her mind resisted accepting the truth, erasing it from her consciousness after each revelation. After another month, Emma, accompanied by medical personnel, chose to visit the scene of the tragedy. Upon entering her home, the memories came flooding back. With clarity, she recounted the moments leading up to the attack. She had been texting with her sister while setting the table, the children playing nearby, when a knock echoed through the house. Opening the door, she was met by a dark, short female figure. When she inquired about the visitor's intentions, a sharp pain pierced her, plunging her into darkness. As the figure slipped into the house, the desperate mother, fueled by instinct, summoned her last strength in a frantic attempt to protect her children. The investigation revealed that the size and shape of a particular tool matched that of the murder weapon, though this evidence remained circumstantial. Detectives managed to locate surveillance footage. The investigation revealed a chilling possibility that Christina had a high chance of evading capture. However, during questioning, her roommate disclosed a critical detail. In March, a hammer had gone missing from her toolkit. The roommate presented the very toolkit, a key piece of evidence that would later come under scrutiny. As the investigation unfolded, detectives confirmed that the size and characteristics of the missing hammer matched those of the murder weapon. Yet, this evidence remained circumstantial. In a stroke of luck, investigators also uncovered surveillance footage that would provide crucial insights into the events leading up to the tragedy. From a suburban bus station, the scene was set. Christina Schurer had visited Arboga 3 times in the week leading up to the crime, yet she could not articulate the reasons behind her frequent visits. It became apparent that she was scouting her future victims. This unsettling behavior left investigators perplexed, as the suspect herself offered no explanation. During the days leading up to the trial, Christina scoured the internet for information on how to conceal her crimes. On July 29, 2008, as she gathered photographs of Emma Youngstig and her children, the trial for double murder with extraordinary cruelty was underway, casting a dark shadow over the courtroom. As the trial for attempted murder commenced, Christina's behavior grew increasingly bizarre. Upon entering the courtroom, she flashed a smile and waved at those assembled as if greeting old friends. However, when confronted with harrowing footage of the crime scene, showcasing the mutilated bodies, she inexplicably laughed. This disturbing response led many to question her sanity, yet the subsequent psychiatric evaluation deemed her sane. Christina was acutely aware of the gravity of her actions. It was clear that she took pleasure in the horror she had unleashed and made no effort to mask her enjoyment. When Emma entered the courtroom and locked eyes with Christina, the shock was overwhelming, causing her to faint. Upon regaining consciousness, Emma recalled the traumatic events of that day, stating that Christina's face was the last image burned into her memory. Despite the defense team's relentless efforts to establish Christina's innocence, the jury delivered a unanimous verdict of guilty on all charges. Christina Schurer was sentenced to life in prison, with no chance of parole. In addition, she was ordered to pay $20,000 in restitution to Emma. Investigators found no evidence supporting Christina's claims of having been pregnant or giving birth to a son with Torgny Hellberg. In a harrowing conclusion to a dark chapter, Christina Schurer faced the stark reality of a life sentence in prison, devoid of the prospect for parole. The court mandated she pay $20,000 in compensation to Emma Youngstig, a small solace amid the devastation. Investigators uncovered no evidence to support Christina's claims of having been pregnant or of giving birth to a son fathered by Torgny Hellberg. Emma Youngstig's journey toward recovery was a grueling battle, marked by pain and resilience. Yet, through it all, Torgny Hellberg stood steadfast, never wavering in his devotion. Their love culminated in marriage during the summer of 2010, a testament to their shared strength. Together, they now raise their 2 children, who are aware of the somber legacy left by their older siblings. Thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe to my channel for many more shocking stories ahead.